everyone. It's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I am here with our three mayoral candidates again. Our City Council President, Peter Marchetti, our at-large City Councilor, Karen Kalinowski, and former Ward 6 City Councilor, John Kroll. So I know many of you saw the first debate we did about, Steve, I think that was about a month ago now. And if you remember at the end of that one, I said this next debate would be based on public safety. This one I'm going to try to make a little bit shorter. The last one went over an hour, but a lot of people did watch it. There was a lot of good information there. So we're going to skip the introductions. So again, if you need to learn more about these three candidates, you can check out the first debate or the 3 meet and greets we did at Currency Coffee. And there's a lot of information on each candidate there. So we'll do the official introduction. So starting, we have Peter Marchetti. Peter, thank you for doing this tonight.
Thank you for hosting it.
Absolutely. Karen Kalinowski. Karen, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for inviting me.
And John Kroll. John, thank you for doing this.
It's great to be here, Mike.
Absolutely. So I have a couple questions that I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to let you guys, if you want to, address some things too. So we'll get to that. The rules of this will be to answer a question, you have 2 minutes. If you mention your opponents, they can respond with 1 minute, and you have a 1 minute final say to close that out. Steve will do a 15-second warning, which is, we've upgraded that from the clicker, and then you'll get a final, there you go. And that will be the end of your time. And also, what they don't see at home is there's a giant 4-foot clock right in front of the candidates. So we're going to start with, and this is, we'll start with Councilor Marchetti. So a lot has been said about the need to equip our police officers with body cameras. And the Pittsfield Police Department has already launched their body camera program, but it has been and will be an expensive undertaking. The police department budget is something that in recent years has been scrutinized by members of the council and some in the community. If elected mayor, will you continue to support the body camera program, and how do you plan to secure funding for not only the purchase of the equipment, but also for the ongoing costs such as data storage, which is the biggest expense involved in that program?
So Mike, the real simple answer is yes, I will continue the program. I believe whatever kind of program that you create within the city, you need to give it a couple years to be in the works and then to evaluate the results. We heard loud and clear from some members of the community that body cameras were a needed issue, and it's somewhat of an unfortunate thing that we're in that era, but I think that isn't something that is just Pittsfield driven. That is a national epidemic where people are believing those things. And so the short answer is yes. How are we going to fund it? Well, you know, I was on the council when we started ShotSpotter, and we were going to have many business community members kicking in money to help support that. That kind of fell by the wayside and fell on the city to pay for. And so body cameras will become part of the police department budget as we go forward.
Okay. And same question to Mr. Kroll.
Well, thank you, Mike. And it is astonishing that we've gone this long without having full body cameras in the police department. Many other communities have done that and did it many already years ago. So I'm not really sure what the holdup was. You know, I know that there was conversations from the former chief about the complications of data storage and the expense, but other communities have done it all over the country and throughout the Berkshires. So not really sure what the holdup was. I talked to police officers and they like the idea because they want accountability. They're out there doing their best and doing a good job in most cases, most certainly, and they like the accountability because it protects them just as much as it may protect you know, someone in the community. So this is something that should have been in place for some time. The status quo did not get it done, so certainly we need that change. get it done. Let's get full accountability, and certainly we're protecting our officers just as we are members of the community as well. So as far as paying for it, yeah, that was a good point on ShotSpotter. There were a lot of conversations about that, privately funded on the front end, and now the city picking up the bill. But again, it is a necessity, and we have to work through this and make sure that we do find the right funding. If it's from the state that we can find funding, or from the federal government as well, that would be helpful. But ultimately, yeah, we have to continue that. Thank you much, Mike.
Okay. And to Councilor Kalinowski.
Thanks, Mike. My feeling about the cameras, I think, there's what the community wanted, and like Mr. Kroll said, it was what some of the officers were looking for also. Just in regard to what was going on, not just in Pittsfield, but outside of, people saying officers doing something that may not have been doing, and a camera will catch who's saying what. Who was telling the truth about what happened at the scene. So it is something that I think is a good tool, and that's what it is, it's a tool. Like the President Marchetti said, we have to evaluate it. We have to let the program run, see how it works. The cost with the storage is a big cost. I don't believe that was the factor in why we're getting cameras. I think what was holding it back was the legalities of recording someone under the Massachusetts laws and stuff. That's what we were told. But my point, I say yes, continue with the program, and I believe that, I know some of it right now is grant funded, and at some point I'm sure the grants are going to run out on that, so it'll end up being city funded after that.
Okay. So you would all agree then, because that was an issue when discussed, that these grants will run out, and it is something that is going to be expensive to fund, but many feel necessary. So you all would agree that we need to keep that program?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And let me pick another one here. If you're enjoying tonight's debate, and this is the second mayoral debate of the 23 season on It's Pittsfield Tonight, remember the only way I can continue this platform is through the generosity of all of you. And It's Pittsfield Tonight, over the past 6.5 years, has covered just about everything. And, it took me a while to realize, basically, the whole concept of this was me trying to fund a nonprofit organization out of my own pocket. Because the only way to keep this platform, like when I'm doing the business promos, I want to be able to treat a business owner like Tyler, who owns Quick Fix on North Street, the exact same way I would treat Eric, who owns The Proprietors, or Bart Razor, who owns Car Hardware. And again, it's through the generosity of all of you donating that has allowed It's Pittsfield Tonight to cover such a broad thing, a broad range of things in the community, and not have to charge. That was never the idea of this. But again, it is at the point where I just don't have the resources on my own to continue this without the help of all of you. The fundraiser this year, I bumped it up a little from where we were, just because of the amount of things going on that we're trying to cover. But again, to the 40 or so people that have already donated, I can't thank you enough. We need to hit our goal. We need to get between $6,000 and $10,000. We need to do that to be able to continue this as is. I've tried taking the advertising approach in the past, and you're kind of, I don't want to say beholden, but now you're there to service your advertisers. And that would change the entire structure of It's Pittsfield Tonight. So to keep this an open, true community platform, again, the only way I can do that is through the generosity of all of you. So to all the business owners out there that I've done promos with and that I've helped, and to everyone in the community, I'm begging for your help. I want to continue this platform. We're gonna, one way or another. So the GoFundMe is going to be in the links to this. For those of you that don't want to give to the GoFundMe, my office is downtown, and I was talking to Steve, who helps me out with a lot of stuff. You've heard his name many times. And we're going to go ahead and take that fundraiser right out in front of my office. There's a great spot. I think I mentioned this in tonight's debate. Where if you want to give and you don't want to give to the GoFundMe, you'll see me and Steve and a couple people out there. I'll have my It's Pittsfield Tonight sign. I'll probably be wearing a suit. And you can give that way. And that'll be right on East Street before you get to First, right on the island there, in between the library and my office. So, but again, thank you to everyone that has given. And to all of you, again, I need your support. I need your support. It's the only way we can continue this platform. And it would be a shame. I'd hate to see this not be what it has become, because we've seen so many good things start to happen in the community, and I want to continue this work. I think it's important, and it's important for all of us, and it's important for Pittsfield. So I'm gonna let you get back to the debate. I know I'm mumbling a little bit, but we're gonna get back to the debate. I'll probably have another one of these popping up somewhere else in here. But it's a reminder that I really need your help. I do not have the resources to continue this on my own anymore, and I need your help. So please give to the fundraiser. And that's it for now. We'll get back to the debate. You know what? This one I'm going to wing it. This one, so all of us here, including myself, in 2018, were involved in the Berkshire County District Attorney election. And it was an election that was unusual for the city. The first time, at least I've seen, where you had so many city councilors and the mayor and the mayor's husband and everyone involved. And the conclusion of that, we even had two of the newly elected DA at the time, two of her campaign managers were also city councilors. It did create a big divide in the community and was controversial. Now, statistically, the 4 years under the previous DA were some of the 4 most violent years in the city's history. Myself, as many of you know, I did work as a manager for the Paul Cacaviello, who was our district attorney at the time, and he did not win that election. And I'll start with you, Mr. Kroll, because you were heavily involved with our former DA, Andrea Harrington, getting elected. Do you feel that that was a right decision? And is that, there was so many different issues brought to that, as far as issues with police funding, how we treat people and things like that, a lot of social ideology. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that put us on a good path? Is that something that you would look at a lot of those things that you supported at that time, or where do you stand on that now?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that question, Mike, because this question comes up. In fact, when I went to an event for Tim Shagru this past year, I had some people come up to me and confront me and say, "What are you doing here?" And what I told them was like, you know what? I made a mistake. And in 2018, there was a couple things that were happening. Number one, there was the handoff, as it were, from David Capeless to Paul Cacaviello. And as we were knocking on doors during that time, a lot of people were interested in criminal justice reform. But one thing that came up through that whole process, and this comes to the status quo and how things can be transparent or how things may not be. One of the biggest reasons why people decided to vote for the challenger was because they didn't like what happened in that process. And I got to tell you, it was a combination of the idea of criminal justice reform, but that was a bigger part of that election in 2018. And as we move forward, we realized, many of us, that office was not functioning the way that it should have. And I had this conversation with the sheriff actually not too long ago. And when it comes down to it, if you have a shoplifter who's going in and stealing from a store, and that person is caught, there's a good chance that there are probably addiction issues. So certainly there's something that can be done in order to provide help for that person. But if you don't have sensible accountability for that individual, then you're not going to get progress. And what was happening during the last 4 years was that individual in that case was being thrown out before an arraignment. So that is a key thing, and yes, 2018 was something that, hey, I made a mistake in supporting Andrea Harrington. I supported Tim Shagru solidly and strongly this last year, and I'll be working with him closely when I'm mayor. Thank you.
Okay. And Councilor Kalinowski, I know you were not a city councilor at the time, but I can't remember if you were involved in that election or not, as far as campaigning for someone. So same question to you.
No, I was not involved in any campaign. Actually, I was still in the police department at that time. Retired right there before the main election. But in listening to her, what she wanted to do as an officer, I'm all for helping someone. We can't assume people that shoplift are drug users. We have lots of different shoplifters, from young kids to old people that are elderly. Some of them shoplift just for the thrill. Some people shoplift for the need. I had, early in my career, before we had all the services that we have today, I ran some people that shoplifted to feed their family. We have to treat them individually. We have to know a little bit about them. But people need to be held accountable for their actions. You can't just dismiss something. You can get them help, or you can just keep it at what they call magistrate level, and they have to stay out of trouble for 6 months to a year. And that can show that somebody can turn it around without having a criminal record, because they will actually, if they stay out of trouble, they'll dismiss the charge. So then there won't be any criminal. There's a lot of ways in law enforcement for you not to have a criminal record, that the system can still help people. I was not a fan of Andrea Harrington. I was not a fan of what she ran for, in her head words. It stand out the year after. She promised programs for our children, the kids, that never came forth on. It was something I advocated for, and I know parents wanted. And, I called her out on it, and, they just didn't happen. Criminal justice is complex.
All right. And Councilor Marchetti, same question to you. I know you were on the council at that time, so as you know, it was a very dividing issue. It was the most we've seen that. So
thanks for the question, Mike. And I think it comes to the heart of our democracy and what it's all about. And we live in a small community, and we all take sides, and at the end of the day, 99% of the time we all come out as friends and move on. It's a small community. When I think about campaigns, I think about 3 words: truthfulness, honesty, and integrity. And when we're running a campaign, it's our job to tell the people what we believe in. And many of us bought the message that former District Attorney Harrington put out there. And that is exactly what we do in campaigns, right? So the status quo, we still don't have body cameras yet. Body cameras are on officers. So maybe it took so long, but it's happened. So to make the allegation that that's still not there is kind of a joke. For me, 2022 was not a very good year. And so when it came time to getting involved in political campaigns, I chose to sit on the sidelines and, for lack of a better phrase, lick my own wounds and stay home. But if I was on a normal frame of mind, I would have chose to go elsewhere, because the candidate that I supported 4 years ago sold a bill of goods and then, in my opinion, didn't deliver. So I would have found another candidate to support the next time around if I was going to be in there. I think many of us say or hear, a city councilor endorsed this person, or a city councilor endorsed this person, or a former mayor endorsed that person. You know what? City councilors, former city councilors, mayors, we're all people too. We all have a right to our opinion, and if we want to get involved in a campaign, we can get involved in a campaign. But we also know if we get involved in the wrong campaign, it can reflect upon us and impact our future elections. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. That was one I wanted to get out of the way for a little while. I will, because, okay.
I didn't invoke his name at all.
You didn't mention his name, but I will give another minute back to you.
Yeah, and I just think, this is the way that I'm going to be mayor. that when it comes down to it, that sometimes you do things that it may be a mistake. I am going to admit that, and I'm going to be honest about it, and put my best foot forward, and say, we're going to do better next time. So it was very clear that the right thing to do last year was to support Tim Shagru. He is the right choice for district attorney. I did that, and I came out publicly for that, and that's what I'll do as mayor. If I made a mistake, I'm going to admit it, I'm going to move on and do better next time. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, and Mr. Marchetti, a minute back to you.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm glad he's going to do that when he's mayor, but I think I have a track record of already doing it. And if I take it back to the Christmas snowstorm this year, it was only days after the Christmas snowstorm that I was on the radio with Josh Landes at WAMC saying, the city did a horrible job and we will work to rectify it next time. I owned it. I'm not the mayor. I'm not the DPW commissioner. I owned that mistake publicly and said that it wouldn't happen again.
Okay, and I'm going to continue with this one. It touches on homelessness, but it's kind of specific to the Springside Park situation. So we'll start with Councilor Kalinowski. Homelessness is something that has been a hot button topic for a few years now in the city. The Springside encampment has been discussed in great depths. The individuals living there have been there for over 3 years now. They are not transient residents. They are local residents with family in the community who live nearby. But due to personal issues, they choose to live in the park. When I first met them, there was another individual living in that same encampment at Springside Park with the current residents that are there now. He also was local and had family that lived very close to the park, but again, due to personal issues, he chose to live in the park. Unfortunately, after several months in Springside Park at that time, that individual took his own life. Many politicians during their visit took pictures with this young man who desperately needed help. Many people's opinion on this issue is the city is enabling rather than helping. And like most enablers, the person they believe they are helping, they are hurting. And secondly, like most enablers, it causes problems for the enabler. And in this situation, the encampment has grown into what looks like a dumping site. And the small brook running through the park now has been used as a toilet, a bathroom, and to do laundry for over 3 years. If elected mayor, will you finally address the issue with those individuals living in Springside Park before there's more loss of life in there, and to return the park back to park status?
Well, if you paid attention to me on Facebook, you would know my answer, and it's yes. When I'm elected mayor, they will be not in the park. We do need to work with social services. They need to give a small time frame to leave, and if they don't leave, we have to bring services up there with law enforcement. It's illegal for them to camp out there. It's against the law, and I know people say I don't want to criminalize homelessness. I went and spoke to Dave last winter. He was almost ready to leave the park with me. I'm not a social worker. What could a social worker do if they went there and took the time to talk to these David and the other individuals? I mean, it was getting toward winter. It's cold. You know, and what the city's doing is enabling them. Most of them up there have some type of addiction, and they're not healthy. The last time I saw David after the fire that broke out up there, he had a wound on him that took a little while to heal. It did finally scab up. But they are cutting trees. You know, the fire got lit by some. They are going to the bathroom. But we are investing millions of dollars into Springside Park. And, you know, I asked Council President Marchetti to make a meeting with the mayor, I think it was about a month or so ago, to sit down to finally get them out of the park. See if they'd sit down with me, listen. And, you know, we were told no. It's wrong, and we're not helping them. they need to be taken out of the park. We do have a homeless shelter. We can't force people to stay there, but we should not be allowing them. The garbage up there, I have pictures of the garbage, the feces. I mean, it's not even just feces in the encampment.
All right, and same question to Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mike. So the answer is yes. When I was approached by Councilor Kalinowski to create a meeting with the mayor and members of the Community Development Office, I felt strongly that we needed to do something to remove them. The wavering difference between Councilor Kalinowski and myself is that I don't think arresting some homeless folks in Springside Park and having that on the front page of the newspaper sets the right message for our community. But what I did learn at that meeting, and what we need to continue to push for, is that we were tagging other tents that were coming along. And when the tent got tagged, for the most part, they were moving along. And so my question that day was, why aren't we tagging this tent? If everybody is leaving when we tag the tent and doing what we requested of them, why are we allowing this to continue to move on? And what was more concerning to me was learning that we have city employees that were up in the woods with the homeless folks, knowing that the person was sick, and not making them, or at least heavily encouraging them to seek medical attention. So, in that case, we're only looking for our second casualty to be in Springside Park. So, absolutely 100%. I think it brings it to the bigger issue where we need all of the agencies to be on board, to be working together, and the city, under the leadership of the mayor, needs to take the directive and put the boots on the ground to change the circumstances that are happening in Springside Park and around the city and all the other encampments. We can't just focus on Springside Park. We need to focus on every area of the city where we know this is taking place. And for those that don't like the rules, let's get them the help to find the rules, because we know why they don't like the rules.
Okay. And to Mr. Kroll, same question.
Thank you, Mike. And you can talk about how it may end up on the front page of the Berkshire Eagle. When ultimately you have people move to another location, and to again provide all the help we can possibly help. Social services, social workers, everything that we can possibly support. But ultimately, the mayor has to make a decision, and it will ultimately be a photo op. When that happens. And is it unfortunate? Yes. But the mayor has to make a difficult decision. So right now the status quo is not doing that. As you heard from Peter, he's afraid that it's going to be on the front page of the Berkshire Eagle. So ultimately, we're going to have to make a decision, and yes, you got to take the hit. But if you're going to help people, and you're going to establish that our parks are meant for the residents of our city to be enjoyed in the way that we hope that is the case. Again, there's one at Clapp Park. The Little League baseball teams play, and you can see an encampment just in the distance as our kids are playing baseball at Clapp Park. So, we need to make difficult decisions, and sometimes that's not going to make everyone happy, but the mayor has to do that, whether it ends up on the front page of the Eagle or not. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, and to Councilor Marchetti.
Oh, well, I'm taking this one. And I'm going to start with a little bit of a joke, but I am so glad I showed up tonight and had to wait 30 minutes for one of the candidates to show up so I could participate in a third grade class president debate. I did not say I was afraid. I said I don't think it does the city any justice to see that kind of photo op and that kind of front page of the Berkshire Eagle. I said that I would create all of the agencies to do what we need to do to get them out of there. So I'm really getting tired of the phrase status quo, and I'm really getting tired of the playing the game, because again, former Councilor Kroll, I am not Mayor Tyre. I have my own brain, and I have proven it time and time again. I served under Mayor Roberto. I served under Mayor Hathaway. So I guess I'm a status quo for everybody. That is just total BS.
In 1 minute.
Yeah, the Tyre Marchetti administration has failed to take action on this, so we need to make a decision. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. And on that particular issue, that was one that I've been up there personally, and the reason I picked out Springside was more because I get that homelessness is a complex issue, but those are local residents with family members who own houses within an eighth of a mile from there. I've talked to the family members and been told they could stay here, but there's rules. And I think enabling it is not helping that particular situation. I get the overall topic is it's a topic many communities face, and there's a lot of work that has to go into that. But I think the Springside one is one that it's just that particular encampment has been an issue for quite some time. So, all right, thank you everyone on that one. So this next question, let me see if I'm just going to wing this one or if I actually wrote it. No, I'm going to wing it. It's similar to this one. So this one is panhandling. And I'm going to use from my perspective. So as someone who is downtown, directly out in front of this office is a spot that is used all day, every day for panhandling. And I've watched these same people. They're also local residents. It's not like an emergency situation, I need $100 to pay something or to eat. They've been out there every day like clockwork for years now. I don't know how much homeless they are. I think that's a deterrent to giving money to other programs, having that. I really do. So I get frustrated as someone downtown who I look out at that. I watch the shift change, I watch the signs get passed off, the van pick them up and drop them off. And it is very frustrating because I think overall it's a bad image for the city. And it's very unsafe because these are thin islands. All it's going to take is somebody bashing into somebody, a rear end job, and somebody could get run over. It could be a disaster. Is that, and I'll start with Councilor Marchetti. Again, this is an issue we've talked about countlessly. Is that something, if elected mayor, that you would take actions to start addressing that immediately?
So I've already started having conversations with the police chief, and I've had some conversations with the DA. Before the next council meeting, I will put in a piece of legislation to begin that process. And so when I'm mayor, I'm going to have it teed up for myself so that it's already ready to roll. I think this becomes a philosophy issue. And we need to create an ordinance that skirts the state Supreme Court's freedom of speech expression and go after the damage that could be done because of the public safety issues that you had put forward. And I've had a number of conversations with the district attorney, and his answer is, when a car hits somebody and I'm prosecuting for vehicular homicide over this kind of issue, how is the state Supreme Court ruling going to hold up? And so there are willing bodies and partners ready to act and move, and we just need to create the legislation to make it happen.
Okay. And same question to Mr. Kroll.
Yeah, absolutely, and we should be using every tool, and I've talked to Tim Shagru about this many times as well, and it has been frustrating that this administration has not taken action, and right now, essentially, the answer thus far has been, hey, there's the case in Fall River, it's free speech, there's nothing we can do, and that has been the policy of the status quo. So when it comes down to it, there are many different things that we can certainly try, and I even look at permitting. So for example, when a business, downtown or otherwise, holds a networking event at their space, the city is now asking them to fill out a permit and pay $20 simply to use their space for a networking event. And you got to be tips trained to pour some wine, and that's a new policy that the city has taken. So I look at that and I wonder, why are we asking business owners who pay taxes, who pay rent, who have brick and mortar in downtown Pittsfield, they have to pay a permit to have an event, and yet we have panhandlers who are going out asking for money on our public areas every day, and they're not being asked to do a permit. So that's one thing we could look at. Certainly the safety and the ordinance, as far as standing on medians, that is an issue, and Councilor Kalinowski brought that up in the last debate, correctly so. And also, I believe in community policing. We need to have boots on the ground, downtown foot patrol, and that is something that, to a T, the district attorney, the sheriff, all agree. And I've also talked to the interim police chief about this, and I believe that is something we can actually do immediately, starting in January. So those components, but again, it is not acceptable to continue to do this. We have individuals who work downtown who are followed to their vehicles, and they don't feel safe, and people leave different workspaces and they have to go in packs because they don't feel safe. That is not fertile ground for a second revitalization of our downtown.
Okay. And the question to you, Councilor Kalinowski, but John did mention your name, so if you'd like a minute to respond to that, you can.
Well, he's correct. I've been advocating for something to be done
She's right.
since I've been on. I have myself talking to the district attorney and now the interim chief. I had talked to the former chief in regard to getting downtown people down here, because we can become a deterrent and we can move people along without having to arrest them, because of our presence, because of being there. And if they need services, we can give them services. We can get them to services just by taking the time to talk to them to find out what's going on. But just me standing there talking to them, nobody's going to be giving them money if a cop's standing there chit-chatting with them. So that's a deterrent. So if I stand there long enough, they're going to need a new space to go to. This is a technique I used back in the 90s with drug dealers to get them off of North Street. It's just be around them, beware, be right there. It's a deterrent that doesn't make it, so you have to arrest. But with regard to what Pete Marchetti said about the ordinance, there is one town in Massachusetts so far, I've talked to the district attorney about it, that has not been declared unethical. And it is an ordinance that doesn't specify panhandling, just that people cannot stand on the islands other than to cross the street. And it's for safety reasons. And they basically put what you said, they put it out as a safety reason to not being there. It's something that we need to look into. I also am a believer in the signs, that we need to put signs up telling people not to give money to the panhandlers, enlist our organizations that we have that they could donate to if they want to help people that are hungry or need a home or clothing or whatever they need. Basically, they're feeding an addiction.
Okay. And Councilor Marchetti, your name was mentioned, if you want a minute to respond.
So I had a similar conversation with the interim chief, and it's interesting from the conversations, because what we talked about more so than anything else was increased bike patrols. Because with foot patrols and the shortage of manpower, bike patrols would be the way to go. So clearly on day one, the interim chief and I would have a conversation on how to handle a couple things. And again, I think it's a change in philosophy. Act or don't act. But the last time I checked, the chief executive officer of the city is the one that gets to make decisions and get department heads to do what they want to do. And I'm looking for that opportunity on January 2nd.
Okay, and a minute back to Councilor Kalinowski, if you want it.
I know I was forming it in my head. I totally lost it. But bike patrols are good. I was bike and walking. It's just that, what some of us have seen on North Street with the officers that are riding their bikes now is they're riding right past the problem. I mean, biking's good to go outside your beat or get somewhere fast, but you need to get off your bike when you see a possible issue. You need to get off the bike and stop and take time and talk to people. So I'm not against bike. When I say downtown walking patrol, bike is part of it. But we need dedicated people, and as far as I'm aware, we have the same amount of officers today that we did back in the 1990s.
Okay. I think on that topic, the most frustrating part for myself is I've gotten to know some of these people, and you ask them questions and I find out, wow, so you got an apartment, you have mass health, you get food stamps, you get this, and you're pulling down $100 to $200 a day tax-free. And as I've been watching them, and I found out why they go there every day, the majority of the money comes from truck drivers. And after I realized that, and the truck drivers are always very generous, it's always $20, $40, and they're probably guys that and girls that drive through the community once or very rarely, and they're doing what they believe is nice. And that's where I get frustrated. So I thought, since I have a fundraiser going on, I'll be out in front of the office with my sign this week. It looks like a good spot to
Fighting
get.
Mountain Truckers.
But that's and to finish that up, also with the Springside encampment one, that was another one I spent time with them, and when I found out how much money do you make a month, I was shocked. I was absolutely way more than I make. So I was shocked to see that. So that's where I felt like a lot of these situations are not people who are genuinely in need for help, because if somebody needs help, you don't want to label them a criminal or a bad person. You want to make sure that the help is there for them and the organizations are there for them. But those loopholes allow a lot of abuse, and I think that is what sets such a bad tone for the city. So one more question that I have here, and then we'll go to if you guys have something you want to say to each other. That could get interesting. So this one is a short question, but I think a very important one. So we'll start with Mr. Kroll. In your opinion, what would be the most effective policy you could put in place to, if elected mayor, the most effective policy you could put in place to use our police department more to prevent crime rather than just respond to crime?
Oh, Mike, thank you for that question. You know, I had nearly a 3-hour conversation with a former police chief here in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and he said, John, when you talk about community policing, the truth is, all policing is community policing. And I think that moving away from the philosophy that our police officers only need to stay in their patrol cars, that is going to be a big step in the right direction. Our officers have some wonderful skills, they're well trained, and helping them develop relationships in the community is going to enrich them with the information that they need to take steps to make our community safer, whether it's the downtown or the west side neighborhood or the Morningside neighborhood or every part of the city. So, I believe in our police officers, I believe in their skills, and I think we need to create an atmosphere where they are able to develop relationships, and that means going back to a philosophy of community policing. And I think that's something that we can have in the West Side neighborhood in particular, and it would be great to have a West Side neighborhood initiative back up and running again, which has now gone dormant. Same thing in the Morningside to develop that, and it is a piece of the puzzle to have our police department more engaged with the community, just like the city of Pittsfield, the mayor's office, and City Hall needs to be more engaged with the community. I'm going to be the most accessible mayor in the history of Pittsfield, and that is going to be the culture that we set, and that includes City Hall, that includes our departments, which also includes the police department. That is going to be what takes us to the next level.
Okay,
Yep.
And Councilor Kalinowski.
Listening to him, I kind of forgot what the first question was,
Do you want me to reread the question? It's a short one, so I won't.
if you don't mind.
Nope. In your opinion, if elected mayor, what would be the most effective policy you could put in place to use our police department more to prevent crime rather than just respond to crime?
I mean, as a community policing officer, former, okay, I do understand the importance of community policing. And actually, it's not new. It didn't come out in the 90s. Because if you talk to the older officers that used to walk the beat, they didn't have cruisers, the sergeant did. I mean, that was community policing, getting to know your neighborhood, getting to know your beat. When they brought the philosophy back in the early 1990s, they assigned officers a beat and encouraged them to get out and talk to residents, encouraged them to get out of the cruisers when they weren't on calls to talk to more. I realize they are busier now today than they might have been back in the 90s on some calls, especially mental health calls, from what I'm being told from the officers. But it's important, because if you have community involvement and trust, they're going to call you more. They're going to talk to you more. If something happens in the neighborhood, they're either going to call you, or when you show up, they might not tell you in front of their neighbors, but they're going to tell you what's going on. And that's how you build it. You build it by going out and meeting and talking to them. Now, funny coming from my cohort over here is because I believed he encouraged defunding the police back early in his running career as a city councilor. So, it's, one of those things where, we can make mistakes and, have a philosophy at one point and turn around and not in another. But, community policing is important, and it is something that, I'd like to see encouraged more, because I saw what it did.
Okay, and Mr. Kroll, you have a minute.
100% not true. Never, ever did I advocate that term. It is not the case. I've always been supportive of our police department. At times, I've certainly held our police department, our chief in particular, accountable. And I think the record will show that, especially when it related to the creation of the Police Advisory Commission, which was a process that, I had some conversations with Chief Wynn publicly that were very clear as to looking for protocols and policies that were supposed to best serve our community. And so I was not afraid of having those conversations, but never, ever did I use that term. Thank you, Mike.
And a minute back to Councilor Kalinowski, if you want it.
The policy of the police board is oversight into actions. It really has nothing to do with taking finances away from the police department. I'm all for the police advisory board, but there's another aspect of it fell behind, because you have to have people willing to get out and speak about what's going on. They have to be able to give the board all the information of every incident that they want to know about. I know in some instances it's hard, especially if there's an investigation going on. But it's too bad the board's not there. But I just don't think police oversight board is different.
Okay. And Councilor Marchetti, I can reread the question, or? Okay.
I'm good. So I think creating more community outreach is the answer. And I think we proved that a couple weeks ago for National Night Out in the Common. The police department brought back National Night Out for the first time in maybe close to a decade. The community came out. It was a great experience. Kids got to do donuts. But that community outreach is more than just events, right? I chaired the Morningside Initiative for a good number of years, and we got residents to come on a regular basis for a whole host of reasons. And a lot of the information that we got from the residents could be put into the hands of the police, just like that, and stuff was taken care of. There were also times that stuff was put in the hands of the police where the process takes a lot longer to unfold, such as, hey, I think that guy's a drug dealer. Well, you just can't go and cuff him and say, come on with me. You've got to build your case. But the initiatives did yeoman's work on a whole host of things and got people involved. And the police could be more involved with those. Neighborhood crime watches used to be a really big thing that have kind of sort of fallen by the wayside. And I think the reason that the two neighborhood initiatives went defunct is we had an employee who served as a liaison for the neighborhood initiatives for a long period of time, and he retired. And when his jobs were shuffled, the replacement really didn't do the job that needed to get done. So more community outreach, more events, more meet and greets to get people to know, because I think the bottom line is when we trust our police department, we're more inclined to communicate with our police department.
Okay. And I would agree, National Night Out was absolutely amazing. It was a lot of fun. And I feel a momentum of positivity that I haven't felt in a long time. And we have so many good officers doing so many really cool community outreach type things. Go ahead, Peter.
I was just gonna say, oh, you mean the status quo did something right?
Damn it, John, go ahead. You want to say something?
Listen, is there positive energy in this city? You're damn right there is. And I can tell you, having these conversations and getting out in the community and speaking with our friends in law enforcement, yeah, there is positive energy. And I hope we're all a part of it, but I can tell you that we're working hard to change the way people think about Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Let me tell you, for too long now, Pittsfield has not taken its centerpiece as the heart of the cultural Berkshires. There is so much potential here. And so, is there positivity? You're darn right there is. And we have to build on that. In going back, being a part of the original administration that brought Barrington Stage Company to downtown Pittsfield and Colonial. When I grew up in Pittsfield, downtown Pittsfield was desolate. There was tumbleweed rolling down the street. I was a part of the first revitalization of the city, and we're going to continue that after I'm elected mayor. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to give you each a... Steve, just make that the same for each of them.
Okay.
So we'll go to Councilor Kalinowski.
I agree, some areas in the city, people took the initiative, and a lot of it was, with the police department, National Night Out has always been a big thing, especially when they did the Morningside neighborhood and the West Side neighborhood. I was involved in quite a bit of them when I was downtown. But even things like the basketball tournament, the derby race that we just had, that they had on with kids. These are companies and local residents coming together and doing this, and we need to encourage that, because being there and seeing it, and we need to encourage it in all neighborhoods, not just one, because does it mean I got
15 seconds.
okay? So yes, I would like to be, when I'm mayor, that's definitely, I will be the outside outside mayor. I'll be somebody that's right in with the things.
Okay, and Councilor Marchetti.
All I can simply say is when I'm elected mayor, all this positive energy that we're all of a sudden talking about, that I happen to be a part of, and I roll my sleeves up every day to work in different areas of the city, serving on different boards, making sure that Pittsfield has a 4th of July parade every single year, coaching youth bowling, where last night I got the privilege of showing up at K&M Bowling and watching the live rebroadcast, I guess, if you want to call it, of a Pittsfield resident who traveled to Indianapolis, Indiana, and competed against 1,300 other youth and finished number 2 in the nation. So you're darn right there's a lot of positive energy, and I'm glad that I'm a part of it, and I will continue it as I'm the next mayor.
Okay. And I would agree. And I think one of the biggest things we're seeing in the community is people standing up volunteering. Over the past few years, I know I started this 6.5 years ago. Other platforms popped up using social media the same way. West Side Legends was created through a Facebook page. And you're seeing my good friend Dasheen Moore with Beat the Streets. That is what we need more of, because it takes more than your elected officials. It's a government of us, by us. So I think it's gonna, whichever one of you is the next mayor, I hope all of you focus on getting people involved, volunteerism, finding the strong points in people, even if you disagree with them, but finding their strengths and say, well, how can we use that to help promote the city? And I think we could build everything up. So, yeah, that's just my opinion on that. I'm going to end this with allowing you guys to address, we spoke before we turned the cameras on. I've been involved in a lot of campaigns, and a lot of times you hear things while you're knocking doors, you're out talking to people, and you go, come on, where'd you hear that from? And it never gets to be addressed. And I'm sure all three of you have heard things, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to, if you have something that you want to address that you've heard, or something that you think is untrue that you want to correct, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that now. So we'll start with Councilor Kalinowski.
Thanks, Mike. I guess one of them I have with Mr. Kroll is I was looking at a post, and you said you advocated for the historical amount of free cash to reduce the rate with the ARPA funds. Can you just tell us when you did that?
Oh, I'm absolutely. I'm an advocate for I've taken ARPA funds in order to reduce the water sewer rate. That is something that should have been done. Absolutely.
But when did you go out and advocate for it?
Last debate, we talked about it many times as I've been in the community. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, from my understanding of this, it sounded like, you were on the council at the time and you were advocating
No.
for this.
For the ARPA funds?
Yes.
No, I was not on the council at the
No,
time.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
I'm aware that you were. And also, your last year on, you said you advocated for reducing taxes. And we're against the mayor's budget. Can you explain that one?
Yes, I voted against the mayor's budget, and I voted for more free cash to be used to reduce the tax rate.
Can you, what was your reason for the budget? Because you said yes to most things.
I voted against the budget, number one, because when we had a historic amount of new funding for Chapter 70 coming in for education, this mayor decided not to utilize that amount of money to go to our schools. Instead, she defrayed some of the cost and used it for other portions of the budget. I disagreed with that. And also, I believe that there should have been more free cash used to reduce the tax rate, so that's why I voted against the budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and Mr. Kroll, we'll go to you.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right,
Yeah.
anything you want to say to the people out there why they should vote for you?
When it comes down to it, when I came and worked for the city of Pittsfield in the mid-2000s, we were in a position of a losing streak over time. We didn't get the baseball stadium finished downtown. GE had left town. We also had the failure of not getting the mall project in Pittsfield and much more. It was the beginning of a new winning streak, and I was a part of a team that finished and renovated the Colonial Theater with a big public-private partnership that happened there. The Barrington Stage Company was recruited to our downtown, and I worked at the ground floor with Julianne Boyd and others at Barrington Stage to make that work in our city, and also the Beacon Cinema. And those projects, I was also a member of the Third Thursday, the original Third Thursday committee that started that street festival, which we need to bring back to North Street. We also brought Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson to Wacona Park. That was a project that I worked on, and we should be doing that 3 or 4 times a year. Every August is bringing that kind of level of performer to Pittsfield, Massachusetts. We can do it. Other communities have done it. I can tell you in the past, I was the founding chairman of the Green Commission, which brought millions of dollars into the city for major projects to reduce our carbon footprint. And I actually wrote the ordinance for that Green Commission and was the founding chairman. So I have a long history of getting things accomplished in this city. But most important, I am going to come in with a sense of urgency, like that administration. As I worked with Jim Roberto and that team, Megan Wilden and Deanna Roofer, man, we got some amazing things accomplished. And as you look back, as we've had mayors since then, we've seen that was a special time. We've got to bring that magic back, and that's what I'm going to do. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. And Councilor Marchetti.
So I have no questions for my opponents because the philosophy that I took when I started running my campaign is this is about Pete Marchetti and the committee to elect Pete Marchetti mayor, and we're in our lane and our zone and we're doing what we need to do. But I'll take a few minutes to talk to the voters as we conclude tonight. So I started earlier saying honesty and integrity are very important parts to me and my platform and my campaign. And I believe that my record shows that I have been a workhorse for the city of Pittsfield for more than 2 decades. I'm not a show horse, I'm not fancy, but I get the job done. I get the work done. And I'll leave the voters with 3 phrases. A vote for me is a vote for leadership you can trust, experience you can count on, and dedication that's been proven. I ask for your vote on September 19th and November 7th.
Okay. Well, I can't thank all of you enough again for doing this, and hopefully we'll do as many as we can. I think the more exposure, the more information that's out there, the better this is.
I don't get an ending.
Oh, did I skip you?
Well, just for an ending. You were
She asked
asking about the
questions,
questions. But
Oh, okay. I might have. Did I, Steve?
She started, but there was a banter between John and her.
Okay.
She didn't get to address.
She didn't
Well,
close.
that I was letting them choose how they use their time though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that was up to you, so I'm gonna leave it at that then. But I will be inviting you guys back. I know we're getting real close to the primary. So after the primary, there'll be 2 of you left, which will leave more room for I can use a podium then, sit over here. So, thank you again though. I think overall, I like the vibe in the community right now. I think as far as elections go, some of the ones I've seen in the past were horrible. This has not been that way. I don't see that. I see a lot of positive energy, like I said, a lot of groups popping up, a lot of good things happening. I think we need to ride on that. So, yeah, and the next one will be more of a general debate, but even this, I gave you guys the chance to take the gloves off, and that's as far as we went. So that's a good sign, I think. So yeah, all right, thank you everyone again, to the candidates. Thank you, Steve, for the bells and the clock and everything he does. Next week I have a very special video coming up. It will be myself along with Sheriff Bowler, our District Attorney Tim Shagru, and our Chief of Police Tom Dowley. So that will be a lot of fun, and we'll be talking about some of these same issues we discussed tonight. So thank you everyone, thank you again to the candidates, and we'll see you in the next week or 2.